Greetings, everybody. This is Jesse here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the whole, the quote of the century, I guess, if you want to call it. But the important thing of what I want to accomplish here is is the question: have we learned anything? And I don't care which country it is. I don't care if it's Israel. I don't care if it's anything like that. Okay. But the question is have we learned anything? Have we learned not to trust your mainstream media that comes from the West? Have we learned that um, the lies initiated with the whole Iraq war, with the whole weapons of mass destruction thing, and yet now that in turn is being switched to Iran only because of a quote, a supposed quote from back in 2005? And a lot of your evangelicals support this because they are pro-Israel and Israel this, Israel that, and they lean on this. And when all in turn, it is nothing more than war propaganda that started 7 years ago, and this is what our media has turned it into: a propaganda for war, an excuse to start a war. Okay, so have we learned anything? Have we really learned that our mainstream media twists things around to make it seem like we should be supporting something that is not right to support? Just like the lies that were fed to us with the whole weapons of mass destruction thing in Iraq. And obviously, we have not learned our lesson. Now, there is some good news on the horizon here. I'm not saying for sure it's true, but it seems like there has been a calm set, and maybe that's God willing. Maybe it was His will that put this into action. That there is a barrier of time that possibly nothing could really transpire until November, December. Which we do have some. Then, if that's the case, we have some more time to get ourselves spiritually prepared for the things to come. When are these things going to really transpire? I don't know, folks. All I know is terrible events are going to come and they're going to happen. I do not know when. I do not know how. But I know that they are going to happen. Okay. This was the CNN.com. Now, there you go, CNN. This is our mainstream media now. The mainstream media that everyone talks about, that says that feeds us lies and everything. Iranian leader wipe out Israel. Okay, Iran's new president has repeated a remark from a former Ayatollah that Israel should be wiped out from the map, insisting that a new series of attacks will destroy the Jewish state and lashing out at Muslim countries and leaders that acknowledge Israel. Okay, and then it goes to the whole spiel. Okay, the remarks of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, reported by Islamic Republic news agency, coincide with a month-long protest against Israel called World Without Zionism, and with the approach of Jerusalem Day. See, here's the thing, okay? Back in the Cold War, there was a quote issued, and I'll get into that in a moment. And again, it was a misquote. I have a tendency to believe that this is not what was said. Okay? Nor do I believe it's an act of war. Okay, World Without Zionism is a nationwide event that the planners intend to hold annually, and Ahmadinejad made the remarks during a meeting with protesting students of the Interior Ministry. See, Zionism is not, you know, Jews, okay? Zionism, I believe, is what people that call themselves Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, okay? Um, there are Jews that live in Iran that live peacefully with the Iranians, okay? I mean, you can look that up. It's all over the place. Ahmadinejad quoted a remark from Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini, the founder of Iran's Islamic Revolution, who said that Israel must be wiped out from the map of the world. The president then said, and God willing, with the force of God behind it, we shall soon experience a world without the United States and Zionism, according to a quote published by IRNA. Now you can see the whole propaganda building up here. Now, I mean, these are pretty blunt claims, okay? And if this was actually enforced, we would have already been going after these guys, knowing how our bloodlust is for war. The Jewish state has diplomatic relations with major Muslim countries such as Egypt, Jordan, and Turkey, and the Gaza disengagement has improved the ties between Israel and some other Muslim nations and leaders. But Ahmadinejad said the new wave of confrontations generated in Palestine and the growing turmoil in the Islamic world would in no time wipe Israel away, according to paraphrased statements in the IRNA report. Okay? We switch over to the New York Times and we can see it yet again. This time they're attacking. This is from the New York Times in 2006. Okay, and it goes on to attack Juan Cole from University of Michigan, basically saying that they're liars. That the quote is true. Let me tell you something. If somebody that is from Iran knows the Iranian language, I would think they know what they'd say or what was said. All right. But okay, like I said, this is the New York Times. Let's scroll through this a little bit. Ever since he spoke, this is from June 11th, 2006. Ever since he spoke at an anti-Zionist conference in Tehran last October, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad of Iran has been known for one statement above all, as translated by news agencies at the time. It was that Israel should be wiped off the map. Iran's nuclear program and sponsorship of militant Muslim groups are rarely mentioned without reference to the infamous map remark. Here, for example, is R. Nicholas Burns, the Under Secretary of State for Political Affairs, recently given the radical nature of Iran under Ahmadinejad and its stated wish to wipe Israel off the map of the world. It is entirely unconvincing that we could or should live with a nuclear Iran. And then the whole nuclear weapon thing built up. The same thing with Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction, Iran, nuclear weapons. Have we really learned anything? We are totally being sucked in by the propaganda lie of warfare. Okay? And a lot of ministers, evangelicals, preachers, pastors are falling into it just like they have fell for it before. Even though they claim their stake that the media is, can't be trusted. But yet they support this only because of the fact that it deals with Israel. Now, if it didn't deal with Israel, I bet you 10 to 1. I'm not going to say for sure, but you 10 to 1. Like, oh, well, you can't trust the media. But if it's Israel, you have to trust the media because it's Israel. I mean, there is no compromise. Either it's a lie or it's not. And judging by what we have seen in the past, I would lean more towards that this whole thing is a setup. It's a hoax. Just from recent experience of other reports that have come out over the years. Okay, but is that what Mr. Ahmadinejad said? And if so, was it a threat of war? Okay. And it goes on. It goes attacks Jonathan Steele from The Guardian. I'll go into that article here in a minute. I mean, you can scroll all down. They come up with all kinds of excuses um, that that's exactly what he said. Um, but this is what the Juan Cole, a Middle East specialist at the University of Michigan, see, he knows their language. I mean, he knows, but they're not gonna believe that, or they're not gonna. But they're just gonna slander this guy. But he says Ahmadinejad did not say he was going to wipe Israel off the map because no such idiom exists in Persian, remarked Juan Cole, a Middle East specialist at the University of Michigan, a critic of American policy, who has argued that the Iranian president was misquoted. He did say he hoped its regime, okay, keyword, i.e., a Jewish Zionist state occupying Jerusalem would collapse. He did not say Israel, okay. He said the regime, the players, the people, the politics, the politicians, the government, a Jewish Zionist state occupying Jerusalem would collapse. What he was basically is calling for is a regime change. Now, obviously, a regime change into a Muslim thing, and I don't agree with that. Am I supporting Ahmadinejad? No, I am not supporting Ahmadinejad. The only person or being I support is Yahweh, and that's it. Okay, but Ahmadinejad, Iran, Israel, they're all in the same boat. Okay, Hegelian dialectic, chaos out of order, thesis, antithesis. You start the problem, you cause a chaos, there's a reaction, there's a solution, and out of the whole ashes of the solution is going to come a one world order. You can read about it, about the letters in the three world wars from Albert Pike. It stated that bit by bit, piece by piece, exactly how it's going to go down in every single world war. World War One, World War Two happened exactly how that letter was written. So regardless if that letter is a hoax or not, I believe that is a perfect template to how we can view this Third World War, which is basically going to be against the Zionist regime and the Muslims, and purposely the Christian world is going to be kept asleep, meaning fed lies about this whole thing. It talks about that, okay? I made a video on that a while ago. You can go and search for it. Matter of fact, I'll put the link up. So basically, what it all comes down to is this is nothing but mere war propaganda, okay? I mean, you can make your nasty remarks at me all you want, but at the end of the day, that this is exactly what it is. Then he goes into New York Times goes into the whole Mr. Steele thing, and I'm going to read that to you. Okay. Then he goes, and this is New York Times now, if Mr. Steele and Mr. Cole are right, not one word of the quotation, Israel should be wiped off the map, is accurate. And you see the mainstream media, oh no, we aren't, we're not going to accept that. People got to accept our story. They have to believe our story. But translators in Tehran who work the President's office and the Foreign Ministry disagree with them. Of course, all official translations of Mr. Ahmadinejad's statement, including a description of it, on his website, President IR/ENG, refer to wiping Israel away. Sharif Madavi, one of Iran's most prominent translators, and Siama Namazi, managing director of a Iran consulting firm who is bilingual, both say wipe off or wipe away is more accurate than vanish, because the Persian verb is active and transitive. Okay. The second translation issue concerns the word map. Khomeini's words were abstract. Sana Rutskar. Sana means scene or stage. Rutskar means time. The phrase was widely interpreted as map, and for years no one objected. In October, when Mr. Ahmadinejad quoted Khomeini, he actually misquoted him, saying not Sana Rutskar, but Safha Rutskar, meaning pages of time or history. No one noticed the change, and news agencies used the word map again. See, there you go. Okay. Time or history. Again, it's talking about a current regime change. That is what he's calling for. A professor of political science in Tehran, who especially is Iran-Israel relations, explained it seems that in the early days of the revolution, the word map was used because it appeared to be the best meaningful translation for what he said. The words Shana Rutskar are metaphorical and do not refer to anything specific. Maybe it was interpreted as Book of Countries, and the closest thing to that was a map. Since then, we have often heard Israel, Bayad Atz Nakshi, Jaguafai Mav Gardad. Israel must be wiped off the geographical map. Hardliners have used it in their speeches. The final translation issue is Mr. Ahmadinejad's use of occupying regime of Jerusalem rather than Israel. Okay, this is what I tend to believe. I don't believe the mainstream hype of Israel wiped off the map. To some analysts, this means he is calling for regime change, not war, and therefore it need not be regarded as a call for military action. Okay, I'm not saying Ahmadinejad is not hostile to Israel, but what I am saying is the fact that just because it's talking about Israel doesn't mean that the mainstream media tells the truth when it deals with Israel. Okay? If you're going to believe something is a lie, how therefore are you going to trust another story from the same sources? That's what I'm getting at. This is nothing but propaganda. Okay, now, here's another one. This is from Jonathan Steele, and this is basically what they were attacking from the New York Times. This is the man they were basically attacking, and I'm going to go into this a little bit, and then I'm going to show you another article. And all of these links and the declaration for war video that I put up a while ago will be posted in the description box below. I highly suggest that you watch that, and you can click on that video and there'll be links to that as well. Okay. This is from 2006. June 1st. If Iran is ready to talk, the U.S. must do so unconditionally. It is 50 years since the greatest misquotation of the Cold War. Okay, I'm not sure if any of you might remember this, or if any of you were alive for this. At a Kremlin reception for Western ambassadors in 1956, the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev announced, "We will bury you." Those 4 words were seized on by American hawks as proof of aggressive Soviet intent. Doves who pointed out that the full quotation gave a less threatening message were drowned out. Khrushchev had actually said, "Whether you like it or not, history is on our side, we will bury you." It was a harmless boast about socialism's eventual victory in the ideological competition with capitalism. He was not talking about war. This is exactly the same thing I believe is going on with the whole thing with Israel and Iran. Now we face a similar propaganda, and that's exactly what it is, propaganda distortion of remarks by Iran's president. Ask anyone in Washington, London, or Tel Aviv if they can cite any phrase uttered by Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and the chances are high, the only phrase they will say he wants Israel wiped off the map. Again, it is 4 short words. Though the distortion is worse than in the Khrushchev case, the remarks are not out of context. They are wrong. Pure and simple. Ahmadinejad never said them. Farsi speakers have pointed out that he was mistranslated. The Iranian president was quoting an ancient statement by Iran's first Islamist leader, the late Ayatollah Khomeini, that this regime occupying Jerusalem must vanish from the page of time, just as the Shah's regime in Iran had vanished. He was not making a military threat. He was calling for an end to the occupation of Jerusalem at some point in the future. The page of time. Phrase suggests he did not expect it to happen soon. There was no implication that either Khomeini, when he first made the statement, or Ahmadinejad, in repeating it, felt it was imminent, or that Iran would be involved in bringing it about. I mean, think about this for a minute, folks. Think about this. I have not heard any nasty things come from Iran or do anything to anybody for any length of period of time, for a while. The only thing that that's constantly being pushed on Iran is the whole nuclear weapons thing. I have not seen anything that Iran has initiated for any declarations of war or anything. Okay? I just haven't noticed it. You look at places like Libya, Syria, what happened in Iraq, Egypt. Okay? Iran has really done anything. What have they done? So what? They want to build a nuclear bomb. Big deal. We have 3,000. Israel's got over 300 or whatever. And they want to build one. Oh, we can't have a nuclear Iran. Oh. What have they done? Seriously. Again, I am not supporting Ahmadinejad. I'm not supporting Iran. But the point of the matter is leave them alone. Okay, anyway. But the propaganda damage was done, and Western hawks bracket the Iranian president with Hitler as though he wants to exterminate Jews. Well, yeah, that's basically what they say. But again, I got news for all these evangelicals out there, is that there's plenty of Jews over there that live at peace with the Iranian people. Okay? At the recent annual convention of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, a powerful lobby group huge screens and switched between pictures of Ahmadinejad making the false wiping off the map statement and a ranting Hitler. Misquoting Ahmadinejad is worse than taking Khrushchev out of context for a second reason. Although the Soviet Union had a collective leadership, the pudgy Russian was the undoubted number one figure, particularly on foreign policy. The Iranian president is not. His predecessor, Mohammad Khatami, was seen in the West as a moderate reformer. And during his 8 years in office, Western politicians regularly lamented the fact that he was not Iran's top decision maker. Ultimate power lay with the conservative, unelected supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini. Yet now that Ahmadinejad is president, Western hawks behave as though he is in charge, when in fact nothing has changed. Ahmadinejad is not the only important voice in Tehran. Indeed, Khomeini was quick to try to adjust the misperceptions of Ahmadinejad's comments. A few days after the president made them, Khomeini said Iran will not commit aggression against any nation. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to search for it, and I'll put it in the description box below. The evidence suggests that a debate is going on in Tehran over policy towards the West, which is no less fierce than the one in Washington since 2003. The Iranians have made several overtures to the Bush administration, some more explicit than others. Ahmadinejad's recent letter to Bush was a veiled invitation to dialogue. Iranians are also arguing over policy towards Israel. Trita Parsai, an analysis at Johns Hopkins University, says influential rivals to Ahmadinejad support a Malaysian model whereby Iran, like Islamic Malaysia, would not recognize Israel but would not support Palestinian groups such as Hamas if relations with the U.S. were better. So, I mean, it goes on and on and on. Okay? And here's another one. This also goes in to explain how it is, a hoax. Barely a date. This was January 26, 2007. PrisonPlanet.com. Barely a day goes by that one can avoid reading or hearing yet another Israeli, American, or British war hawk regurgitate the broken record that Iran's president Ahmadinejad threatened to wipe Israel off the map. Framed in the ridiculous context that Israelis are being targeted for a second Holocaust. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not going to get into the whole Holocaust thing, but I believe the numbers aren't all accurate with that either. And the players of that is not, and I believe the players of the Holocaust were actually Zionists in and of themselves. And I believe Hitler was one of them. So, this baseless rallying call for conflict holds about as much credibility as Dick Cheney's assertion that Saddam Hussein was planning to light up American skies with mushroom clouds. Yeah, he said that. I mean, that's if any of, any of the pro-Israel people support, those that support that. And guess what? It didn't happen. Today, it's the turn of would-be future British Prime Minister David Cameron, leader of the Conservative Party, who repeated the wipe Israel off the map fraud in a speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, using it to qualify his refusal to rule out a military strike on Iran under a Tory government. So, did Ahmadinejad really threaten to wipe Israel off the map, or is this phrase just another jingoistic band slogan for selling the next war in the Middle East? The devil is in the detail. Wiping Israel off the map suggests a physical genocidal assault, a literal population relocation or elimination akin to what the Nazis did. According to numerous different translations, Ahmadinejad never used the word map. Instead, his statement was in the context of time and applied to the Zionist regime occupying Jerusalem. Ahmadinejad was expressing his future hope that the Zionist regime in Israel would fall, not that Iran was going to physically annex the country and its population. There's a difference between hoping or wishing and actually doing it. Has he done anything? No. I'm sure he could have easily done something by now if he really wanted to. And I'm not saying he won't. Again, this whole issue is with this quotation. To claim Ahmadinejad has issued a rallying cry to ethnically cleanse Israel is akin to saying that Churchill wanted to murder all Germans when he stated his desire to crush the Nazis. This is about the demise of a corrupt occupying power, not the deaths of millions of innocent people. And again, it goes into the Guardian's Jonathan Steele. Um, um, and then the New York Times. They had to back away from this false translation because they were basically caught red-handed. So, but again, look at these links for yourself, guys. I mean, do the research and ask yourself this one question. Have you learned anything? We still follow these lies that the media brings to us, and obviously, and deception and propaganda. And it's like mainstream sources like this and like this, you know, and BBC and all that. I mean, when you put the pieces together, I am in total belief that the wiping Israel off the map quotation was a misquotation, and that is not exactly what was said. I, however, do not support and do not condone Ahmadinejad. Because again, Ahmadinejad and Netanyahu, they both want the same agenda. They both want a new world order. Especially Netanyahu is a 33rd degree Freemason, and that's what they want. Okay? So why would I support either of them? The only thing I'm trying to bring to your attention is the propaganda and the lies and the confusion. And you can see how there'll be so much confusion because of all the flipping bleh going around. So anyway, all the links will be posted below. Check it out. Do your own research, man. Let me know what you guys think. Truth be told, truth be known. Stay safe. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.